On March 23, 2026, a quiet announcement shook the foundations of the global digital economy. Leonid Radvinsky, the reclusive billionaire owner of OnlyFans, had passed away at the age of 43. He left behind a platform that, in its final year under his guidance, processed over $7.2 billion, a digital empire built entirely on the commodification of human intimacy. When we see the headlines of $67 million earnings and the flashy lifestyle of boss babe empowerment, we assume the creators have finally won. We assume they have successfully beaten a legacy system that spent centuries trying to control them. But if you look past the bank statements and into the eyes of the creator behind the ring light, you aren't looking at a business victory. You are watching a 200-year-old German philosophical tragedy playing out in high definition. This isn't just a website, it is the ultimate realization of a psychological trap that has haunted humanity since the dawn of self-awareness. To understand why this platform is so addictive and so destructive, we have to go back to 1807. A philosopher named Georg Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel published his masterwork, The Phenomenology of Spirit. In it, he described a concept that would define our modern era before electricity even existed, the Master Slave Dialectic. Hegel argued that human beings cannot truly know themselves in isolation. If you were the last person on Earth, you wouldn't really have an identity. To feel real, to have a sense of I, you need another person to look at you and acknowledge that you exist. You need recognition. But Hegel believed that when two people meet for the first time, they don't just shake hands, they enter a life and death struggle. Both people want to be the center of the universe. Both want to be the master whose reality is the only one that matters. Eventually, one person yields. They surrender their autonomy and their time to become the observer, the slave. On the surface, OnlyFans is the perfect marketplace for this struggle. The creator is the master, commanding the gaze and the capital of millions. The subscriber is the slave, surrendering their real-world labor and wages for a mere moment of acknowledgement. But as Hegel warned, this relationship is a fundamental trap. Neither side is actually free. They are locked in a cycle where both are slowly being stripped of their humanity by the platform itself. In our digital dialectic, the master is the creator who appears to have reached the summit of the hierarchy. To see this in its most extreme form, we look at Bad Babi. In early 2024 and 2025, she remained a symbol of the platform's sheer power after famously breaking the record by making over $1 million in her first 6 hours on the site. By 2026, her total earnings were reported to have crossed the $75 million mark.
I seen this tweet. It said something crazy like 50 M. Like, what's the most you made in a day on there?
When we first started, I made $1 million in 6 hours. And by the end of the day, it was at like 4 million. And now overall, the net on it is like 75.
So she didn't just sell content, she sold the privilege of being in her digital presence. Hegel noted that the master's goal is to be independent. They want to exist without needing to work, living entirely off the tribute of the slave. Creators like Corinna Kopf epitomize this. In late 2024, she famously revealed she had netted over $67 million, essentially winning the game of recognition.
My friend Corinna, she's kind of had a side hustle going on that we all know about, but look how much she's made. I want everybody at home to please buckle in because this makes me want to vomit. This is absolutely insane. This is monthly. She became the sovereign master, someone whose very existence is funded by the collective gaze of 1 million observers. But here is the Hegelian twist. The master's status is hollow because the master's identity is entirely dependent on the slave's recognition. They are not actually free. If the fans stop looking, the master vanishes. This creates an atmosphere of constant low-level terror. The master must constantly perform, innovate, and reveal more of themselves to keep the slave interested. They aren't bosses, they are highly paid employees of a collective anonymous gaze. They have traded their private self for a public brand, and in doing so, they have become an object.
Now we turn to the slave, the subscriber. Hegel observed that the slave is the one who does the actual physical work in the world. They are the ones building the houses, driving the trucks, and sitting in the cubicles. They take the surplus value of their labor and hand it over to the master. Why? Because they are starving for the very thing the master has, recognition. They want to be seen. They want to feel like a celebrity knows their name. But in 2025 and 2026, the illusion of this recognition began to crumble under the weight of the chatting agency scandals. A massive class action lawsuit, Brunner versus OnlyFans, exposed the reality that for most top creators, the intimacy is a factory line. Fans realized they weren't talking to the models they admired. They were talking to chatters in offshore call centers who were trained to use psychological triggers to extract more money.
5 plaintiffs have recently filed a class action lawsuit against the company that runs OnlyFans. It's not where you think this is going. This is so awesome. I want to get it really perfect. Now, they allege that OnlyFans enables users to message creators directly, but they allow creators to hire professional chatters to impersonate them and respond back to fans.
So the plaintiffs are 2 guys from Illinois. They thought the actual models that they were subscribed to were communicating with them, but it turns out maybe not.
This is the ultimate form of what Hegel called alienation. The subscriber is working a job they hate to pay for a connection that doesn't exist. They are pouring their life force into a digital void. Listen to the actual comments from these slaves who realized the trap they were in. I spent 3 months worth of savings tipping a creator because she told me she was proud of me. I found out later it was a 22-year-old dude in a warehouse using a script. I didn't just lose money, I lost the only person I thought actually cared about my day. The subscriber is paying to be treated like an object. They are funding a reclusive billionaire's empire just to avoid the crushing weight of being invisible in the real world. If the subscriber is trapped by their need for intimacy, the creator is trapped by their need for the subscriber's gaze. Hegel argued that the master eventually becomes a stagnant consciousness. They stop growing as a human being because their entire life is a reaction to what the slave wants. Look at Amaranth. Despite making millions of dollars a month, her life is a testament to the burnout of the master. In interviews throughout 2025, she described the brutal reality of having to stay online 12 to 14 hours a day. The second she stops streaming, the recognition drops and her empire begins to shrink.
You've kind of said before that you plan to retire once your passive income becomes greater than your active income. Is that still the case? And is it totally true? Could you ever really step away from like streaming, do you think? Could you ever step away from that limelight?
I think that I could step away from the grind. I think there's no harm in keeping like a stream, like maybe a few days out of the month at minimum, maybe a few days out of the week max, but nothing like 12 to 15 hour days every day, hopefully. Yeah. Like I don't want to do that forever.
Is that kind of your schedule right now?
Yeah.
But is that a self-imposed schedule?
It is.
Yeah.
No, it definitely is, just because, especially with the kick deal, it's like if they're paying you for only a certain amount of years, you got to milk it while you have it. So
she is the master of her domain, but she is also its most exhausted prisoner. This dependency is now being codified by platform policy. In early 2026, OnlyFans implemented new AI content policies that, while intended to curb deepfakes, actually forced creators to prove their physical presence more frequently. The platform is tightening the leash. The creator can no longer just post and walk away. They must constantly prove they are a living thing to satisfy a base that is increasingly suspicious of being cheated. The master is now a slave to the very algorithm they thought they controlled. The most famous part of Hegel's dialectic is the reversal. He argued that eventually the roles flip. The slave, through their work, learns to master the material world. The master, however, becomes soft and helpless, unable to survive without the slave's labor. We see this reversal in the 2026 banking crisis facing adult creators. Even with $75 million in the bank, creators like Iggy Azalea have found themselves digitally exiled because the traditional financial world views their income as high risk risk or immoral, they are often banned from traditional banks, unable to get mortgages, or even standard credit cards. Iggy Azalea has been one of the most vocal critics of this banking discrimination, eventually pivoting entirely to crypto with her $ Mother token and her Thrust launchpad in late 2025. The master is a king in a digital room, but a pariah in the physical world. They have all the money, but no standing. Meanwhile, the subscriber, the slave, holds the ultimate power, the power to leave. When the fan closes the laptop and cancels the subscription, the creator's identity, their wealth, and their status vanish instantly. The slave is the only one who can walk back into the real world. The master is stuck in the cage they built for themselves. Hegel believed that this struggle was supposed to lead to a synthesis, a state where two people recognize each other as equals, but OnlyFans has done the opposite. It has perfected the struggle and turned it into a subscription model. It has frozen us in a state of mutual exploitation. The creator thinks they are the master because they have the millions. The subscriber thinks they are the master because they have the access. But the only true master is the platform itself, the silent infrastructure that takes a 20% cut of every broken heart and every desperate message. Leonid Radvinsky may be gone, but the machine he built continues to process our need for recognition into raw capital. We aren't being empowered, we are being consumed, and until we learn to look at each other for free, we will all remain prisoners of the paywall.